think that I would have time, but I found some time to talk a little bit again on my usual Sunday stream. Um, I had a lot of time. By the way, guys, can you hear me if I speak through this thing? You know what? Otherwise, I'll just take it out. And I know for sure. I'll just take it out. So I have a lot of time to listen to audiobooks and podcasts and the news. There is a lot of good stuff happening, guys, and so many things are being exposed at the moment, and everything we have been talking about for years now is coming out now. Everything is coming coming to the light now, and the things we talked about on my channel for the last years now. Some back then everyone thought it was too radical, right? It was they called it names and all these things, but now it is out there, guys, right? My channel is no longer radical, right? It has become the truth, right? And even the people who were still moderate a few years ago, they're waking up now, guys. So that's good news, right? But I wanna talk about what I see when I look at these politicians, right? Nigel Farage, for example, the leader of Reform Britain, right? First of all, Britain doesn't need to be reformed, right? Britain needs to be restored, right? Can restore Britain do anything? Well, I always say no, but it is the voice of the majority now. Like I always say, it's gonna come from within us, right? But hi, back from us. I was listening to Nigel Farage after Novak, that young boy got stabbed by that sick guy, right? And we heard the phone call, how his brother called that he was attacked. We know the whole story, right? But I was listening to Nigel Farage, how he had this indignation, and it was appalling, it was terrible, right? It was frightening, right? And how dare we have to stand up. Guys, Nigel Farage, like I always say, is a clown. He is not real. He's a compromiser. And if you get more and more discernment and you start to recognize spirits, right? For example, I had to turn it off. I cannot listen to Nigel Farage. Even though what he says is true, what happened to that Novak kid is horrible, but what I hear is the tongue of a snake. Because if he really cared, he would not stand for his politics the way he does. Right? What I hear is that he uses that story of Novak for his own political gain. That is so obvious to me, guys. Right? And look back my videos a few years ago. I'm never wrong. And I'm not wrong about Nigel Farage too. What's happening? The English people, in this case, the English people are waking up. Right? They start to see what's going on. Right? So they want someone to take the lead. Right? And Nigel Farage wanted to be that leader. But he has a double forked tongue. Right? He doesn't care about the Anglo-Saxon English people, right? Because he even said to the question, what is a Welshman? He said, well, anyone, even for example, someone from Somalia, if he lives in Wales for 5 years, he is now a Welshman. That's what Nigel Farage says. Nigel Farage doesn't want to restore Britain. He only wants to stop the boats. He wants to stop illegal immigration. That's all he wants. That's all. No re-immigration. No, he doesn't want to recognize what a true Englishman is. He just does not. He's a compromiser and he's a political clown. Also, he's not a natural born leader. Do you remember when he was in that crowd and he was singing, Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves. And he was, we will never, never, ever, never be slaves. He was, It is fake. Yes, he sings along because he likes the tune and he stands for Britain. But what is Britain actually singing? We will never be slaves. But he doesn't care about the English. To him, everybody is British. And now Nigel Farage uses that story of Novak to get voters back, because many people start to see that he will not change anything. He's lukewarm, he's just political, blah, 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 blah. That's all he does. People are tired and they see that Nigel Farage is not going to do anything. So he's losing a lot of voters who walk over to restore Britain. So he's losing people, so he has to do something. So in order to appease all these people, now he acts that he wants to do something about all these terrible things that are happening. Guys, can you see the deception? Right? Reform Britain is just not left, not right, a little bit in the middle. Right? So Nigel Farage is not gonna change anything, right? He's a clown, right? He's not a leader, right? He just plays that he is the leader, right? He's just, guys. So I hope you see that. A lot of people don't want to reform no more. They want to go to restore, right? Restore by itself, like I always say, these politicians, they cannot go up in these positions. But it is the people. The people are seeing it now. The people are waking up, right? Also, people like Keir Starmer, that is just a joke. Very incompetent, ignorant, Marxist, communist lapdog. That's all he is, right? He's another clown. Stands there speaking all posh English. Oh, look how sophisticated I sound. He's just a clown too, right? And now the father of Novak, he said that he doesn't want to turn this thing into a race thing, and he doesn't, he doesn't want you to talk about it. But the people are tired of it. Of course they're gonna talk about it. Of course they're gonna tell the truth. And then Keir Starmer had a speech that it is unforgivable that you talk about it, that you use it to. He's another clown, right? Sparks Kid says, what exactly is the truth? The truth is that every country that is built by Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, Germanic people, whether it is Europe, America, Australia, South Africa, is being destroyed from within through mass immigration. Not just illegal immigration, also legal immigration. We have now foreigners. My Father in heaven commanded us not to put someone in high positions, in a king or above you, that is not of your brother. And now we even have Muslims in government, in parliament, Muslims MPs, the leaders of the National Party, right? That is the truth. And it is black people, and it is brown people, Muslims, now 6, who just think they can unalive white boys, right? And then call the race card. That is the truth, right? So Keir Starmer is a clown. Nigel Farage is a clown, right? It has to come from within us, guys. But God works in mysterious ways, right? Remember George Floyd, the famous "I can't breathe." But it's almost like God orchestrated the situation. Not that God did that, but he used that situation to expose something, to bring something to the light. Because isn't it a coincidence that also Novak, that boy, said, I can't breathe to the police. So it is a perfect parallel that exposes the hypocrisy. On the one hand, you have a guy who is overdosing on fentanyl. He's a criminal. He's resisting arrest, and the and he dies. White British police get on the knee, put a fist in the air, honoring and commemorating Saint George Floyd. Right? But when an English boy is stabbed 5 times and he is suffocating internally in his own blood because his lungs are pierced, and he says, I can't breathe. No, you're okay, mate. They put him in handcuffs. The last words he heard was his rights. But do you see the similarities? George Floyd, I can breathe, and this guy, I can breathe. Do you see the police bowing down on their knees to this kid? No. And people are starting to see it, guys. Simani, no, I'm not from South Africa. Spark says, so should the policeman who was white, by the way, not be held accountable? Of course he should be held accountable. Nigel Farage should also be held accountable. Keir Starmer should be held accountable. The entire police force should be held accountable. In the old days, we used to have trees for that and gallows for these people. And these things might come back. If the European spirit wakes up again, then it is over. Right? It's over with Islam. It's over with all these other people who hate us, turn against us. It's going to be over one day. Because the European people are the most tolerant, patient, kind people in this entire planet. And everybody took advantage of the goodness. But now they see their goodness as weakness. Right? But the white man is waking up again. And I always pray that my Father in heaven will pour his Spirit upon his people again. Right? Because he's our Father. Yahweh is the Father of the European people. And we were reconciled through Christ. Right? Some people, the church says, yeah, but God is everything. God is the Father of all races, and God is consciousness. God is the source of everything. That might be true, right? God is in the trees and even in the molecules, in the atoms, right? He holds everything together. That's true, right? But there is only one people that he told them that he will be as a father to you. That's why the Father of Christ is called his Father and our Father. Do you understand that? Right? It is not that someone from the Congo believes and now he is his father and he's his son. That is not how it works, right? But it's becoming more and more obvious that people don't recognize us as being, that we were declared the sons of God. Right? That doesn't necessarily mean that we are better than others, because now you see that many of us are no better than the others spiritually. Even though you don't see white grooming gangs, you don't see white people in mobs killing people and destroying and looting and oh, praise Jesus. Muslims do that. Muslims destroy, loot, doing all these things in the name, and because they say Allah Akbar. Right? So a bunch of thugs, right? Why don't you ever see white Christians in groups in the street doing that? There's a big difference, guys. Right? How come that you never hear of white European grooming gangs living in Indonesia? Why don't you ever hear that? Or white European grooming gangs raping young girls in India? You never hear that, do you? Right? So guys, I'm gonna keep it short today. I just wanted to say, use your discernment, guys. You know, the way the Prime Minister, if you are appalled, if you go against what happened to Novak, if you think it's horrible and you want to talk about it, and he says that's unforgivable, you should be ashamed of yourself because his father didn't want that, he said. His day is coming. The day of Kiestammer is coming. Every man will hold an account on that day. Everyone. Right? In America too, we have a president who a few months ago said, are you still talking about, what's his name? Right? The Epstein files. You're still talking about Epstein? What are you talking about? You still want to talk about that? Right? So, it's gonna be fine, guys. Yeah. If other races want to honor our father, right? But do they want to? The black people make Jesus black. They say God is black. They call us the devils. They say that we are Esau. So they're not gonna be where we are. It's not gonna happen, guys. Muslims are not gonna be where we are going. They're not. Right? They maybe they want Christ or God, right? Because they want to have a better life, right? They're not going to be where we are, guys. Jesus even told the Edomite Pharisees, "Well, you cannot go where I go." He didn't say, if you do this, that you can. No, he said, you can't go where I go. Right? Just like Muslims. Muslims are also connected to Esau because Esau married Canaanites and also married the daughter of Ishmael. And the Ishmaelites and the people of Edom intermarried with each other. That's why Judaism and Islam is very closely connected. Right? Also dead people are waking up. You know, someone sent me a video of Frojacks. They didn't want to speak to me, but they wanted an identity pastor. Well, I listened to that video, the interview with the identity pastor, and it is just another universalist. Just another shill. He starts out great, it all sounds good what he says, but then immediately, well, back to universalism. Right? More and more we'll start to see that universalism is false. Right? More we'll see. I don't need 1 million subscribers. I don't need to be on Project. People are starting to see it, right? Like I said, everything I've been talking about for years, right? It's step by step coming through, guys. Right? It is just a lot of opposition who want to steal the truth and compromise and not give it a different twist, pulling you back into Marxism. Right? There is no more time for compromising, guys. Yeah, I see some people are watching my live today I don't know, and they think it's probably Muslim. What Jalal says, Saiba like you goat. Yeah, that's always with Muslims. When you give them scripture, what the Bible actually says, that offends them, then immediately they talk about your mother and they want to have your wife, and they have no rebuttal. They don't know their own Quran. By the way, do you know that because of internet, a lot of Muslims are losing their faith because now information is out there, and now they see the truth about the Quran and the Hadith, that it is all nonsense, right? So, you know, Muslims always say that they honor the prophets of the Bible and that Muhammad was the final prophet of the Bible. But if you tell them what the prophets actually said, they don't believe it. right? So on the one hand, they say they honor the prophets of the Bible, and on the other hand, they don't even read it. They don't even read what Jeremiah said, what Isaiah said, what Ezekiel. They don't even read it. What Moses said, right? So they don't honor them at all, right? But the book of Genesis says clearly that Esau lost his birthright, and he went to the Canaanites, married women, right? Like Heth, Hittite, the daughter of a Hittite, Heth. And then he went south to Seir, and the Ishmaelites lived there, right? And he brought his Canaanite gods with them, and he married the daughter of Ishmael. Read Genesis, it's all in there. But also Ishmael was not a son of promise, right? Yes, Ishmael was a son of Abraham. Abraham loved him because he was his son, but he was not the son of promise. The son of promise was Isaac, right? And Ishmael didn't like that at all, just like Esau didn't like Jacob. So Ishmael was sent away, but with a blessing that he would be the father of his own people, right? Princes will he beget, blah, 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 all these things, that's fine. But then the next verse says, but my covenant shall I make with Isaac. So Ishmael is not in the covenant. Ishmael is not called to be in a covenant with God. Neither is Esau. The birthright, the dominion mandate, and the covenants went to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's why the God of the Bible is called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God of the Bible is never called the God of Ishmael and Esau. That is not true. It is not in there. Right? But you can explain it to Muslims. They don't want to hear it. Because Islam has nothing to do with the faith. Right? Just like how Muslims always boast about fasting, but just not eating of 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. This is not fasting. I do that every day. Right? If you just don't eat all day and then at night you stuff yourself, that's not fasting. That's just called not eating during the day. Right? So don't boast about it as well. Because when I fast, I don't eat at all. For one time even 7 days. No food, nothing. Not at night stuffing myself, no, nothing day and night. That's fasting. Right? And if a true man of God walks in the street and he sees a scarcely dressed woman, he recognizes that she's beautiful, but he can control himself. Muslims have no impulse control. They cannot control themselves. That's why they have to stick their women in burqas and headscarves and coverings, even the children. That means they don't have God in their spirit. It is an outward, fleshly religion that is based on trying to not get into situations. A real man of God can go into any situation and restrain himself. Right? Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the modern day Arabs are not even real Ishmaelites. Right? Because Ishmael started to intermix first with the Canaanites, right? And later Islam came, and Islam started to go into the Middle East, took over North Africa, but also from North Africa they went south. They took black slaves out of Africa, and they started to intermix with them. And they became brown. That's what Arab means in Hebrew. It means to become darker, right? So if a Moroccan, for example, does a DNA test, he will see that he has like 10% sub-Saharan African DNA. That's why they have this bushy hair and the brown skin. Because the original Ishmael was a white man. Even Muhammad is described as a white man with a red beard. That's why you see these brown Muslims dyeing their beard red with henna. They want to look like Muhammad. Right? But only white people have red beards, guys. Hey, Gideon. Yeah. I don't know who what Jalal is. Yup's gonna leave you lot to your fault and stupidity. Yeah. I think we have another Muslim here. I don't know what Muslims are looking at my channel for, right? But the thing is, I hear people from India, for example, going to England and saying that, well, the English were in India, so now it is our time to invade England, colonize England, because the English used to do it to us. And Muslims come to England because they say the West, they created wars in the Middle East, and now we come to Europe. First of all, guys, the European people did not create wars. It is the Edomites who created these wars. And the Edomites also control these Muslim countries. Even Turkey, for hundreds of years, is controlled by Edomite blood. Right? Also, Turkish people are not a race. It is a whole mixture of different races. Right? A little bit Mongolian, a little bit European, a little bit Jewish, a little bit this, a little bit that. Right? Just like modern day Arabs, this is just a mix of people. They're not the original people of the Bible. Right? And then also, everybody, all races, all religions say that the Europeans were colonizers, right? So now it's the time for the other races to colonize the West. But guys, the difference is, when the Europeans sailed the oceans, they went to places there was nothing there, just wilderness. There was no structure, there were no laws, there was nothing. And the white people actually came, improved things, built agriculture, infrastructure, cities, roads. That's what the white man did. They upgraded it. It became better. But these brown people coming in, they don't make things better. They don't bring anything new. They don't improve. They don't build. They only come to destroy. Right? And it's getting more and more obvious. More and more people start to see that now, guys. Right? No, I'm not a Zionist, what? I'm not a Zionist. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Zionist. I'm a son of God, right? A son of God. The Jews are not God's chosen people. The Muslims are not God's chosen people. They lost that thousands of years ago already, guys. It is just that we have been infiltrated by Zionists and they have corrupted the church teachings. That's why Europe is becoming weaker, right? But there come a day that God will say it's enough now, right? The day of reckoning is coming, right? Because if the European Christians disappear, the whole world will be in darkness. Because Muslims come into the West where everything is built and ready to go, and then they think, oh, now we're going to take over. But you didn't build it. You never built anything. You only go into wicked nations, which the Zionists opened the door for you to come in, because you didn't invade us. You just walked right through the door because the Zionists always open the door for Islam. But you don't bring anything. And if Islam is such a great religion, right, you don't have to come to the West. You would be thriving in North Africa. Because the white man lived for a long time in North Africa. All these cities used to be white cities. Right? Even thousands of years ago, Carthage, modern day Tunisia, white people. The Greeks were there, the Romans were there, and now it's just a desert. Right? Guys, they have been lying to us about the Bible, about doctrines, because the church has been infiltrated by humanistic people, Zionists, Edomites, right? Because there's no such thing as, for example, Judeo-Christianity. That doesn't exist. It's an oxymoron. And Christianity is not a religion. Christianity is a covenant. Right? The Bible also says that first century the kingdom will start. It will last 1,000 years. And after that, Satan would be released. Now look around you. Does it look like still we're in the kingdom? That most of us have the kingdom inside of us? No, it does not. Satan was loosed. And I believe that was to show us the consequences if we walk away from our Father. Right? If we don't stand with our Father, if we don't have His Christ, these are the consequences. The Bible says this beast will overtake you. Strangers, foreigners, they will come. Right? They will lend you money, you won't be able to pay back. It's all happening. Deuteronomy 28 curses. Right? But it is not. God never punishes us for the sake of punishing. Our Father said, you have only known of all the families of the earth. So no Ishmaelites, no people of Esau, the Edomites. You, He said, only you have known of all the people of the world. Of all the families of the earth. That's us. But then, in the same verse, He says, that's why I will punish you for your iniquities. Right? So God punishes in a way to correct us. He doesn't punish us for the sake of punishing, but He uses everything till we come to the point that we start to see it. Right? But God has to go a long way because many still don't see it, even though many more are waking up. Right? I have been saying this for years, guys. It has to get worse and worse and worse till it is undeniably. Right? It is sad that it has to come so far before people start to wake up, right? But don't be discouraged. Right? God has His ways to teach us, but He's not going to forsake us, guys. Right? So I always say politicians won't change nothing because most of them are just part of the club, right? They're just lapdogs for the big companies, right? And for the little state in the Middle East, right? It's going to come from within us, guys. So I keep praying that God will pour His Spirit of truth on us again, guys. We used to be so beautiful, right? We sailed the oceans, we built cities, everything. We used to be people. We used to be so proud of ourselves. We even had so much confidence and we had so much prosperity that we even had the ability to help other people, right? Develop other countries, help them, send money everywhere. Go to Africa, build water pumps for these people, right? Go to the Europeans went to the Middle East. They said, hey, you got oil in the ground, let us pump it out for you. And these people in Kuwait became rich because of that. They didn't even know it was in the ground. It was the European companies who pumped it out. Sadly, those European companies are being taken over by Edomites as well, right? I'm Dutch, and the Dutch are always proud of Shell, you know, one of the biggest oil companies in the world, Shell, the Royal Dutch Shell, right? But now the Rothschilds have a big claw in there too, right? Unfortunately, right? But we're gonna thrive again, guys, right? We just have to start letting go of all the fear mongering and name calling and oh no, because what also happens with Metcalf here, that Kamala thing is now everything. They are exposing themselves. Muslims are exposing themselves. These black people who hate us are exposing themselves. Just let it play out, right? I already learned you can't reason with them. You can't talk to them because in their mind they live in a different reality. They have a different spirit. Therefore they have a different reality. Right? You can say this is blue and they will say no, it's red. And you cannot convince them otherwise. Right? So just let them do it. Because the more they scream, the more they do, the more they attack, the more they are exposing themselves. And it is waking up our people, right? And I know the games the Muslims play. I know all the games. the 3 stages of jihad, right? First you come in small groups and you think everything is great and you want to integrate, right? But then the second and the third step comes, right? And they like the taqiyya. Taqiyya, that means they are allowed to lie if it benefits Islam, right? But truth will always float to the surface, always, right? It's gonna be awesome. Can you imagine the relief we'll have? The relief we will feel, right? Gideon says Taqiyya is like the Jewish Kol Nidra. Yeah, but the Jewish religion and the Islamic religion is the same. Muhammad even had a Jewish grandmother. It is the Edomites who did not have the manpower who created Islam. And I can show you the footage of the rabbis saying that they created Islam as a broom for the West. So the Muslims are not invading or overtaking the cities in Europe because they're better or stronger. No, it's because someone let them in. But they're not improving anything. They're turning it into a third world country. Right? Guys, if the people in the Middle East or North Africa want to be Islamic, that's fine. I won't have any desire going over there and try to change their minds. Right? I have enough respect for Muslims to let them have their own places in this world, in North Africa and the Middle East. That's how much. That's enough respect I have for them. I think all religions and all races have the right to their own lands where they can practice their own religion. But Muslims seem to think that we, the white Europeans, don't have a right to our own land and to our own religion. And they call us racist and Islamophobic. Everything is being exposed now, guys. People don't buy it no more. Right? Alright, guys, I'm going to leave it here. Love you all. And I'll see you if I have time next week again. Sorry for the background is a bit boring at the moment. And I talk to you soon, guys.